Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. I hope all of you have had a wonderful week. I hope all of you are going to have a wonderful week to come. And I want to thank you for letting us be a part of welcoming that weekend. And now we come to our inner healing time. I invite you to just allow your body and your mind to relax. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and close your eyes. Take in a few deep breaths. Relaxing your body and allowing your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me. Sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing my idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and sharing confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
I want to thank everybody who was part of yesterday's event. What? We had an event yesterday? I didn't know about it. We were at the Tamina Health and Wellness Fair. We made some wonderful connections with other groups in the community that are doing positive things, and we look forward to working with them going forward. And we brought a remnant back from the snacks that we gave out. There are 2 or 3 bags of small tangerines on the table in Builders Hall. Please take those home with you. They'll do us no good, do no one any good just sitting there. So please enjoy them. Are they cuties? Well, I kind of like them. I guess it's a matter of personal taste, but as is faith, which is what I want to get into today, the matter of faith. So yesterday at this event, I'm sitting there. We stood most of the time and we interacted, and then I went and sat on a picnic table and looked at football scores on my phone, and one of our people came up who is here this morning, and she said to me, kind of wistfully, is the High Mysticism series over? Now, you want people to be wistful when they ask you if the series is over, because it means, you've done some good. You've laid some groundwork. And I said, yes, it is. It is. And tomorrow we'll begin a new series. And then when I got home, I thought, well, why does it have to be over? The party's never over. So you're going to find some pieces of high mysticism working through this month in these talks, probably even Reverend Arthur, because he brings his own material, but he keeps up with what's going on here, believe you me. Today what I want to get into has to do with moving from personal to collective as we go through this month. It's a time of Thanksgiving. It's a time of holidays generally, where we tend to be with family, blood family, choice family, family. And who we are can rub up against who they are in interesting and sometimes difficult ways. What are we going to believe? We live in a fractious time where people are being yelled at to believe one way or another. And if you don't believe the way I believe, then you're wrong and you're part of the other side. And I'm thinking back almost a year and a half ago, Reverend Lisa gave a great talk on this about what if there is no them? Or if you prefer, what if there are no them? But sometimes we feel like there's a them. Sometimes we feel like we're the evolved ones. We're in new thought. We're not in old thought, So we're out there on the vanguard of things. And we run up against people who are still, it seems, caught in the old ways of doing business. But last week I spoke about the ancestors, and the ancestors are about the old way of doing business, and the ancestors, they had it more going on than they didn't, you know? They moved things along up to the point in civilization that we now occupy. They knew many deep things that we tend to have forgotten. They had a personal faith. They also had religion. I'm doing a lot of research at home right now for multiple projects, and I'm reading through Ernest Holmes. I found there are 4 of his books I don't own, and I was able to get 2 of them this week. Little books, republications from the 70s. But I'm going through, and you know what he doesn't talk about much? Religion. He doesn't talk much about religion. He talks a whole lot about faith, a whole lot about spirituality, but not much about religion. In fact, our organization had a motto for a while. It's still there, but it's been sublimated in the text. But we had a motto that says, we're a philosophy, a faith, and a way of life. It does not say we're a religion. Why? Because people argue about religion. See, religion's a structure in which faith occurs, but faith doesn't need religion to occur. I'm looking at Sean back there, and I'm thinking that faith is like a sign that has a little tent over it. Okay? The sign is still a sign whether or not it has a tent over it. But if you took the sign out from under the tent, then you just have a tent. And people would be like, why is there a tent just sitting there? You know. Well, religion is this structure in which faith occurs. But work is a structure in which faith occurs. Relationships are structures. They're all structures in which faith occurs. But religion tends to be one, along with its handmaiden politics, that we argue about. Which side are you on? And then if you tell me what I want to hear, and I agree that you're on my side, but you start thinking about things on your own, then I start to be skeptical, are you really on my side? Because you're asking questions I haven't, or you're asking questions that are forbidden. And now, have you ever been on my side? Or are you an infiltrator who's just pretended to be on my side? You see? And you see all of this going on all the time. You see, people will tell you, did you watch the video I sent you? Well, no, not really. Well, or yeah, I did, and I don't agree with it. I think it's propaganda. Well, then you're not my friend anymore. Never mind all the years of history that we have together, but if you don't agree with this particular set of things, we're having difficulty in the world right now distinguishing between facts and truth, between facts and facts, facts and falsehoods, truth and lies. And I believe this is a phase. I'm not too terribly concerned, me personally, I'm not too terribly wrought up over this because I think it's human adolescence. I think we have come to the point in our evolution where we're acting out like we were teenagers. And I don't care how obedient and contrite and well-behaved you were as a teenager, you acted out some. We all did, you know. And we challenged authority except when it was inconvenient to do so. And then we claimed authority and we claimed power and stuff, and we threw all of this stuff around. Religion is complicated. Faith is not. Faith is not. So in giving you a talk about faith, I have an easy job today. You've always had it. My job is to have you know that you had it. Ernest Holmes says over and over again, we're not out to persuade anybody of anything. Man, is that a relief. That is such a relief. We're not trying to pull you out of your faith system into our faith system and have you sing our songs and say our prayers and read our books and do the stuff the way that we do it. If you want it, it's here. We couldn't be more public. Those doors are open. Okay, for a year and a half they weren't. That's another story. But, you know, you could tune us in. We didn't look at you all beady-eyed and say, who are you and what do you want? You know, you could watch this stuff, and if it speaks to you, that's great, and it obviously did, those of you that are here. Those of you that are watching, we have no argument with anybody about matters of faith and matters of the heart. Our job is to know that there is a power that's greater than we are so that we don't just flail around trying to figure stuff out on our own. Carl Jung had a wonderful statement I quote to you frequently where he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And there are an awful lot of us out there who call it fate, who say, well, I guess I was born under a bad sign, or it was just meant to be. Meant to be is one of those expressions, it just grinds me to the bone. Meant to be. Well, I guess it wasn't meant to be. By whom? By whom was it not meant to be? By the distant God who decides what job you should take and which person you should have a relationship with? No. Such a God, in my opinion, does not exist. But it's just my opinion because that's part of my religious sentiment. And people argue about names of God. I find this in my writing. It's a God or a spirit or a goddess or ultimate ground of all being. You can fill a whole paragraph with disclaimers. Well, it could be this or it could be that or it could be something else just so nobody's offended. And then you translate these names into different languages, and that multiplies by countless times. But there's one. There's one. That's the point. I don't care what you call it. There's one. There's one. There's one that is all. That is the thin live wire. That is the third rail. That is the essence of power and consciousness that you can tap into directly without need of a structure, a formula, or an invitation. You can tap into this one directly, and you have been doing so since you were that big, and since before you came to this life even. And so have our ancestors and their ancestors, all tapping into this. But you need to know that you're tapping into it. You need to know that it's there. And your name for it will be your personal name for it. What was that in Lord? This just occurred to me in Lord of the Rings. There was one of the species of, maybe it was the dwarves, I don't remember. There was one of the species of the beings of Middle-earth who had 3 different names, each one of them. They had the name they were given. They had the name they were called by their tribe. And they had the name they called themselves that they never shared. You have a name that you call yourself that you never share. You have a concept of yourself that you never share. Others can spot glimpses of it in the way that you are, but it's changing too as you go on through life. But that is your personal vehicle of faith. When we say there is no need for an intercessor, that you have a direct, unmediated relationship with the source of your own being, this means nothing mediates it. This means nothing stands between. There are no doorkeepers between you and the source of your own being. There is no power that looks at you and asks if you're worthy. There's no power that says, well, I remember this stupid thing that you did 20 years ago that you haven't burned off the karma for yet. And there's no such agency exists, but it has been taught to us that they do. Because, I guess, heavenly society has been made to mirror human society in the way the scriptures were written. By whom? Humans. Who looked around and said, well, we have a king, and we have a royal household, and we have nobility, and so forth. And so heaven, or the celestial estate, must look like that. And so they're all hierarchies of beings and things. It's just a function of human imagination, kind of unimaginative human imagination that just takes this and blows it all up to cosmic proportions. There's a power. And the nature of that power, I cannot express this enough, the nature of that power is such that you can't explain it. And I can't explain it. Because to explain it is to define it, and to define it is to make it finite. And that's completely in contrast with the nature of that power. I've spent years trying to explain this power, and I can't. And if I spent as many years in the future, I couldn't. Like multiple lifetimes, I couldn't explain it. All I can do is say, here's the last glimpse I had of. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something happening, So the faith that you have is yours, and it's private to you, and you do not have to defend it. You do not have to defend it. It's not performative. It's also not transferable. A lot of times we'd like it to be transferable. Brian here could use more faith, I feel. So, Brian, you can have some of mine. But my faith isn't his faith. My faith is a story. He might like the story, not like the story, be bored by the story, inspired by the story, but whatever he does with the story is going to be his business. Faith is direct knowing. The reason we have spiritual centers and stuff, people file in and sit down and listen to things, is that they hear bits and pieces of information that they can use to kind of pry loose their own faith within themselves. I think you'd rather come to, I know you folks would rather come to a place where you're told that you're all right than come to a place where you're told that you're born in sin and that you're just a miserably corrupt human being with the hope that you might change how you are and be some way different for the benefit of what, I'm not sure. It's a lot of times about control, just simply. Watch this. Watch this. We say to one another, watch this while I move this other person around through guilt and shame. Because we can do that. But we've had enough of that because it's toxic. And here's the main thing about faith. I said it's non-transferable and it's direct and it's immediate and all this sort of thing. It's also reciprocal. That is to say, it rebounds on you. It rebounds on you. You cannot believe one thing about yourself and something else about everybody else and not have the two collide in a basic train wreck in consciousness. Jesus and others have taught us this, and we have swept right by what they said. Oh, that's too difficult. And after all, it was Jesus, for crying out loud, saying these things. Who could possibly live up to that example? So let's get to the rules and regs, of how to do all of this. But Jesus basically taught us to wish the best on your enemy. Wish the best for the people who persecute you. Why? Does that seem masochistic? No, he was talking to students of esoteric wisdom who said, what you give out, you get back. You give out blessing, you get back blessing. You give out love, you get back love. There is no other way. There is no shortcut to this. It's why so much of what we do in New Thought is about spiritual psychology. So much of it is about, why do we talk about forgiveness? People ask that, why so much about forgiveness and inner work, and I have to do this and I have to do that? Why can't I just be saved? Why can't I just be plucked up out of all of this and carried off to heaven and stuff? Because life is real. Because life is interactive. And if you could be just plucked up out of all of this, issues and all, any one of us, and carried off to the heaven of the majesty of God, if we got there with our issues, such as we have them, we'd look around and say, well, this isn't all it was cracked up to be, this glorious heaven, would we? We've joked about that before. We say it doesn't look like the brochure. It's like a bad travel experience. Why? Because I'm looking at it through my own unforgiveness, my own stuckness, and so on. That's why we do the work. And here's the really cool thing, is that when you do this kind of work within yourself, you don't have to be transported off into the skies to have that heavenly experience. It's here with these people on this earth. Something I loved about the song, and you've done that song before, but something I loved about it that went to this talk, I'm sitting there, I just about came up out of the chair, is that the people that you and I think are evolved and have it all put together and are doing their work and are winning at life and all of that, and the people that you and I think, whoever they are stuck and miserable and kind of ignorant. Whoever these people are, they all open their front door and they say, it's a new morning. They all look out and they say, look at this beautiful day. Look at this beautiful day. Every one of us looks out and says, look at this beautiful day. Then we go right back into our judgments, our inhibitions, our stuff, whatever it is, and we define the day and we shut ourselves off from the day. But that's the glimpse. I'm pointing to the windows here. That's the glimpse of heaven that we get when we get ourselves out of the way. So in this time to come, this season, you could use any season at all, but let's use this one. And as we discussed last week, it's now a new year according to one calendar. Two calendars, several calendars I come to think of now, from different cultures, different times. It's now a new year. Could be August, could be any time you declare it a new year, but now in this experience going forward. What am I going to do about my faith? What am I going to do about my faith? Where am I going to do my work? This is not at all selfish, self-absorbed, narcissistic. I have to get straight within myself about who I am. I have to heal my own identity crisis. This is a lot of what's going on in the world right now, is an identity crisis. Who are we? Who are we? And some are real threatened by that. But you know what? It's a great time to make it up. Say, I'm a champion. Say, I'm the epitome of the giving and receiving of unconditional love. Say, I am a becoming being. I am growing into my divine inheritance with every thought, with every feeling. Declare these things to yourself. And your faith, not in a religion, not even in a group of people you trust. As people come and go, it's no knock on people. People change, and they should. But your faith and a power back of everything that's intangible and yet the most real thing there is, that you knew and that you touched long before anybody offered an explanation for it. Go to that. Seek that out on a regular basis, daily, more often, if possible. Go to that and just be in that faith, not asking anything from it, not moving it around at all, but just basking in its glow like you would in this new morning. What more would you ask of this morning? Breakfast aside. What more would you ask of this morning than to give you what it's given you, okay? So as we go through this month, next week, and then the brilliant Reverend Arthur on the 21st, and then I'm back with you on the 28th, we'll have a little high mysticism salted in there, but the individual, the personal sense of connection with the infinite moving into the corporate or collective body of our lives, where we see how we can fit and how we can be our neighbor's brother and sister and non-binary individual, and how we can go even a step further than that and be our neighbor. And be our neighbor, the place where we all connect, still with a body of personal wisdom and information and a journey, yet so intimately, ultimately connected that we are one another's demonstration. It's an exciting time. So let's know together now, there is this one life. This life is whatever you call it. It does not mind what you might call it. It only hopes that you do call it. That you and I turn from the temporal and the spatial, the transient, the relative, and stand in awe of the absolute, the I am, the unqualified I am. As we do this, we are reminded of who we are and have always been. Beyond names, labels, the body we wear, the choices we've made, the journey we've walked, or any of that, we are revealed as the experience the I am is having of itself in this world at this time by means of us. And this then becomes our faith. We go to sleep with it, we wake up to it. It's present on gorgeous days like this, and it's behind the rain. This faith, this knowing that there is a power and a presence, and yes, we can use it. And yes, it's using us. And it always has been. And there's nothing we can do about that. And there's nothing we need to do about that. And we need not defend this. For no one can take it from us. Yet at the same time, this faith will evolve within us. And we'll know it more deeply. And the more often we visit it, the more of its secrets it will yield up. So that becomes our spiritual practice. We're reminded of this faith in the books that we read, and the stuff we hear, the songs we sing. But they point toward it. They're signposts that direct us back to this faith, where we willingly return. So for this knowing, for the power of faith-filled consciousness in each of us, and for the difference that it is making in each of our lives and in the culture's life as we move from adolescence to intelligent, informed, conscious, loving grown-upness, I am so deeply grateful. And I offer my thanks into this presence, into this great I am, calling it done, and so it is. So it is. Man.
As our ushers make their way to the back before we start giving time, a couple of quick things. I would like to personally thank each and every volunteer who came out yesterday. We have a couple that are here. Thank you very much for that. We really appreciate your help and support. Who's not here, but I want to give a special thanks to, is Denise Lagway Slate. Her and her husband came out yesterday, but then she doubled back, came here, and put up these beautiful decorations for us for Thanksgiving. So I just want to tell her thank you very much. We appreciate that as well as all the support we got yesterday from everyone who was there. You guys did a wonderful job talking to people, handing out stuff, and just being a light and a wonderful support and representative or CLC. And for anyone still looking for a volunteer opportunity with us, Reminder, we have on Saturday, November 20th, our mobile food event. I did not mention that earlier. You can still sign up. We would love to have the help and the support for that. All you have to do is email info@creativelife.org. And so with that, is there anyone new before I do anything? Is there anyone new here or here for the first time? Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. And if there's anyone online who's new, please let us know. You can drop us a message on Facebook Messenger, let us know in chat, or email us at info@creativelife.org and say hi, so we can say hi back to you. And so now I invite everyone to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
I want you to know that we tried our best to find which species it was from Lord of the Rings. We did. But if you've ever Googled Lord of the Rings, you know how much there is out there. So we tried. Danielle and I both tried. But we did find, because when Reverend Jesse was talking about it, I remembered that that's also from cats. And so I did one more little quick Google. T.S. Eliot, C.S. Lewis, and J.R.R. Tolkien are contemporaries. So they were all, I think Tolkien was born about 6 years after T.S. Eliot. So I'm sure that they all influenced each other. So if you go back to the comments of today, the naming of cats by T.S. Eliot is in the link. Otherwise, look it up, because it's exactly what Reverend Jesse was talking about the three names. So we wanted to let you know. We tried. Danielle's really good about getting links in there, but we just couldn't find that one. So, all right. It is a beautiful day out there. It is an absolutely gorgeous day. In my opinion, it's the perfect fall temperature. It is sunny. It is not too warm. It is not too cold. It is perfect. It's my idea of perfect. And every one of you has an idea of perfect. Whole, whatever that looks like. So I'm going to invite you into that space right now. Whatever it is that feels perfect to you. What your perfect temperature is. What your perfect sound is. What your perfect smell is. I like peppermint. Some people like mom's home cooking. Other people like coffee. I like the sound of running water. What is your perfect day? And fill that up, just in your own head. Make that perfect space for you. Whatever it looks like, whatever it feels like, whatever it tastes like. Because that is where you go to meet God. That is where you go to meet Spirit. That is where you go to be the most fully yourself. That is where you go to hear that name that nobody else calls you. That is where you go to learn God's idea of you. The perfect idea of you. The whole idea of you. Because the only one who knows you perfectly, wholly, is Spirit. And I encourage you to go there every day. And if you like, go there multiple times a day. It is your secret refuge. When things get a little messy out here, go there. Take a deep breath and go there. And know that there is one power, one presence, one life, one love. And that life is our life now. And we are called to go forth and live it. To go forth and be authentically ourselves. To be the most you that you can be. Thank you, Dr. Seuss. to go forth and live, to go forth and love, to allow the expression of you that is God to make this world that refuge for absolutely every living being out there. I call you to know who you are. In that life, in that love, in that presence. A beloved child of God. And I'm grateful to know this about myself. And I'm grateful to know this about each and every one of you. And I'm grateful for this place. And I'm grateful for this teaching. And I'm grateful for these people. I am grateful for our senior minister. I am grateful for the staff ministers. I am grateful for the musicians. And I'm grateful for technology. And I release this knowing into the infinite, calling it done, into the fullness of knowing, into the fullness of spirit, into the fullness of love. And so it is.
Say it with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love
So
it.
it is.
And
So it is.
Yay. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good.
Good.
Almost 100%.
I was going to say, you look pretty good. No more